Stop. Whatever you are doing right now, stop. This is not for everyone listening. This is for you, because something in you has already begun to lean toward this moment, and you have not been able to explain why. You have been carrying a quiet ache that nobody around you seems to notice. You keep showing up, you keep answering, you keep holding things together. And still there is this private feeling that something inside you has not yet been fully met. You feel it in the ordinary places, in the middle of the day when your chest tightens for no visible reason, in the night when your body finally rests, but your mind keeps walking, in the moment after a conversation ends when you realize you have said the right words and still not said the true ones. And because you are used to being the steady one, you have learned how to hide it well. You smile when you need to smile. You function when you need to function. You keep your disappointment folded neatly where nobody can see it. But I came here to tell you that what you have been feeling is not random, and it is not the end of your story. Stay with me, because before this is over, you are going to recognize the signs that have been following you, the pattern underneath them, the root that formed it, and the way your life is already turning back toward what was always yours. By the time we close, you are going to understand why this message reached you tonight and why it feels so strangely specific. You are going to see what has been asking for your attention in the background of your life, even while you were busy surviving the foreground. You are also going to hear the deeper meaning of the pressure you have been under, because not every wait is punishment, and not every delay is denial. Some things arrive in your life wearing the clothing of confusion, but they are carrying a message you were never meant to miss. And before this ends, there is a declaration I will speak over you that is not meant to entertain you. It is meant to confirm you. This message did not find you by accident. It came by appointment, because there are moments when a person is ready long before they can admit it, and heaven recognizes that readiness before the person does. You may have thought you were only tired. You may have... Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuzazara readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment. Thought you were only distracted. You may have thought you were only going through a season that would eventually pass without leaving a trace. But something has been happening to you. Something has been shifting in the hidden places, and it has been so subtle that you almost mistrust it. One day your old certainty feels thinner. One day the same room feels different. One day the thing that used to consume you no longer has the same power to hold your attention. You keep noticing that certain moments arrive with a strange intensity. A sentence lands deeper than it should. A memory rises at the exact wrong time. A song, a number, a passing remark, a face in a crowd, and suddenly you are inside a feeling that has no obvious origin. That is because your life has begun to speak in signs. Not dramatic signs, not theatrical signs, the kind that pass unnoticed unless you are already being softened for them. You wake at the same hour more than once, and it is not because your body is broken. You feel a sudden heaviness after being around people who look fine on the outside. You hear yourself agreeing outwardly, while inwardly you know something in you has already stepped back. There are mornings when your hands move through familiar tasks, but your heart is elsewhere, and you cannot quite tell whether you are grieving something or outgrowing it. There are afternoons when a familiar place feels too small for the person you are becoming. There are nights when you sit in silence, and the silence itself feels full of instruction. And there are also those repeated little echoes, those small numerical arrivals, those repeating patterns that seem to watch you back. You catch the same sequence more than once. You see the same phrase in different places. You notice how often something appears right when you are asking whether you should keep going. Do not dismiss that so quickly. Do not call it meaningless just because it is quiet. Some confirmations do not announce themselves with thunder. Some confirmations arrive like a hand on the shoulder, gentle enough to miss if you are distracted, steady enough to change the direction of your whole day. What you are receiving is not confusion. It is contact. What you are feeling is not failure. It is friction between the life you have been carrying and the life that is trying to emerge through you. Take a breath with me. Let your shoulders drop for a moment. If even one of those signs has been landing in you lately, if your body has been reacting before your mind can explain it, type the number 888 in the comments. Your fingers typing those numbers are your spirit saying yes, and that yes matters more than you know. Type 888, then come right back to me. Because there is something beneath these signs, and that is where the message becomes clear. Beneath the repeated patterns is one single pattern, and once you see it, you will start recognizing it everywhere you have been trying to force an answer out of a door that opens from the inside. The pattern is this: you have spent too long interpreting delay as rejection. You have learned to read silence as absence. You have learned to read waiting as punishment. You have learned to believe that if something has not opened quickly, then it must not be meant for you. And because you are sincere, because you are disciplined, because you are capable, you have tried to become more perfect in order to deserve what was never going to arrive through striving alone. That pattern has not just touched one part of your life. It has moved through many rooms. It has touched your work, where you keep trying to prove that your consistency should finally be rewarded. It has touched your relationships, where you sometimes give more clarity than you receive. It has touched your prayers, where you ask with faith, but also with the old ache of someone who is already preparing for disappointment. And the most difficult part is that this pattern can make a person appear very strong while quietly making them very tired. You keep becoming the one who understands, the one who adjusts, the one who waits a little longer, the one who says it is fine when it is not fine, the one who believes that if you can just endure a little more, the whole thing will finally make sense. But understand this carefully. What has been repeated around you has not been proof that you are behind. It has been proof that your life is asking for a different kind of movement. Not more pressure, not more self-criticism, not more frantic reaching, awareness. Because once you see the pattern, you stop worshipping it. Once you name it, you stop confusing it with your identity. Once you recognize it, you begin to realize that the thing you have been calling your personality may only be a protection that stayed on too long. And that means there is still another layer beneath this one. Stay with me, because this is where the root begins to reveal itself. I keep seeing, over your life, the image of a courtyard. Not a grand courtyard with polished stone and open celebration, a quieter one, a place that was built to hold light, but over time became lined with shade. A place where voices once echoed freely, then gradually learned to lower themselves. A place with a door that still opens, but not always with ease. You have lived in that courtyard for a long time. When you were younger, something in you moved more naturally. You did not always second-guess the sound of your own voice. You did not always measure yourself before speaking. You did not always feel the need to earn your place in every room you entered. But then, slowly, something changed the atmosphere, not all at once, not with a single dramatic event, more like a series of small weather shifts that taught you to become careful, a comment that stayed in your memory too long, a disappointment that taught you to shrink a little, a moment when you offered your truest self and did not feel fully received. So you adapted. You lowered your volume. You tightened your steps. You learned the shape of the courtyard as it became quieter, and you started mistaking that quiet for wisdom. But a courtyard was never meant to become a prison. It was meant to receive light. It was meant to carry movement. It was meant to make space between walls without losing the openness at the center. And that is why the image matters so much, because what has happened to you was not that your life stopped being alive. It was that your life became trained to live as though the sky was smaller than it is. The old formation that planted this in you taught you that safety comes from limitation. It taught you that if you keep your hopes neat, your expectations low, and your expression controlled, then disappointment cannot surprise you as deeply. It taught you that restraint is the same thing as peace, but it is not. Peace is not the same as silence forced by fear. Peace is not the same as a body that has learned to stay small in order to avoid being seen. Peace is not the same as a heart that has been asked to wait so long it forgot how to lean forward. And somewhere deep inside you know this already, because the courtyard in you keeps remembering the wind. It keeps remembering what it felt like when your inner space was not entirely managed. It keeps remembering what it felt like to speak without rehearsing every consequence. It keeps remembering what it felt like to hope without immediately preparing a defense against disappointment. That memory is not naive. It is not childish. It is the original shape of you trying to return. A breath settles lower in your chest when you hear that, because the body recognizes truth before the mind agrees. You are not being asked to invent yourself from nothing. You are being invited to return to what was covered over, and that return begins the moment you stop treating every closed gate as the final definition of your worth. The courtyard is not empty. It is waiting. It has been waiting under the dust of caution, under the habit of restraint, under the story you repeated to yourself so many times that it began to sound like fact. But something in the courtyard is moving again. There is light touching the far edge of it now. There is air where there used to be stillness. There is a door that no longer feels sealed in the same way, because the person standing inside it is no longer fully committed to remaining hidden. Let that settle into the part of you that has waited longest to hear it. If the image of that courtyard has landed in you, if you can feel that something inside you has started to open, type the words "I see it" in the comments. Let the recognition seal where it just landed. Type it, then come right back to me. Because when you see the courtyard, you also see the return. And the return is not a list of tasks. It is not you becoming more impressive. It is not you gathering enough discipline to force your way into a new season. It is not you proving that you are now worthy because you have suffered long enough. The return is simpler and deeper and far more sacred than that. You receive what was never meant to be earned by strain. You receive the breath that was always trying to meet you. You receive the clarity that was always waiting beneath the noise. You receive the steadiness that does not come from control, but from being aligned with what is true. This is why so many things in your life have felt like they were asking you to do less, not more, not less care, not less devotion, less grasping, less self-contempt, less exhausting effort to become acceptable to a reality that was already moving toward you. There is a kind of exhaustion that comes from trying to build what can only be inhabited. You cannot construct belonging by force. You cannot manufacture peace by tightening your grip. You cannot create inward authority by apologizing for your presence every time you enter a room. You do not need to earn your place inside your own life. That sentence may land like water on dry ground. Good, let it. What you need is a different kind of attention. A morning seal, simple and clean, where before the noise of the day reaches you, you place your hand over your chest and say nothing complicated at all. You breathe once, slowly, and you remember that your life is not a negotiation. You are not asking the world permission to be real. You are remembering that you already are. Then there is the second practice, and it is equally quiet. In the middle of the day, when the old pattern returns and tries to pull you back into overexertion, you do not chase every thought. You do not answer every pressure. You pause long enough to notice what is actually present, and you name it honestly. Not everything that feels urgent is true. Not everything that feels heavy is yours. Not everything that pauses is lost. This is how the courtyard begins to open again, not with panic, not with performance, with steady reception. And from that place, your life starts to change in a way that does not need to be forced. The doors do not have to be kicked. The sky does not have to be chased. The air simply becomes part of the room again, and you begin to remember how to stand in it. I want you to hear this with tenderness and with authority. You are not being called to become someone else. You are being called to tend what was covered. You are being called to guard what is opening. You are being called to hold your own heart with more reverence than fear has allowed. That is stewardship, that is the return. And the more you tend it, the less you will need to perform being okay. The more you tend it, the less impressive your peace needs to look from the outside. The more you tend it, the more ordinary your miracle becomes, which is how real miracles usually arrive. They become the way you breathe. They become the way you answer. They become the way you no longer abandon yourself when the room goes quiet. Stay with me, because the next part is where the recognition becomes public. If something in this message has confirmed what your spirit already knew, let your like be your amen, without words, not as a metric, as an agreement that what was named here was named correctly. And now there is someone who has come to mind. You did not choose their face. It came to you as the words were still moving. It may be someone quietly tired, someone secretly seeking, someone holding a posture nobody else seems to notice. It may be someone who has been strong for everyone and soft only in private. It may be someone who looks composed on the outside, but is carrying more than they know how to say. That person is not an interruption to this message. They are part of why you are hearing it. Send this to them. Not as a recommendation, as a delivery, the same way it was delivered to you tonight, by appointment. Because the truth is that what touched you first may be exactly what will reach them next. And when a message arrives with this kind of timing, it is rarely meant for one life alone. Before this closes, type the words, "I am chosen," in the comments. Not as a wish, not as a hope, as a confirmation. The agreement quietly forming between heaven and your hearing across these last moments is one you will live from for the rest of this season. Type it slowly. Let your fingers do what your spirit is already doing. Take a breath with me. Let this settle all the way in. You are confirmed. You are remembered. You are not late. You are not hidden. You are not too far gone. You are being gathered into yourself with a tenderness that does not rush and does not fail. You are being made steady where you were once split. You are being made clear where you were once crowded. You are being made open where you were once guarded. You are not becoming worthy. You are recognizing the worth that was there before the noise. You are not inventing your path. You are returning to the road that has been waiting under your feet. You are not losing your life. You are meeting it again. Right now, all across the world, others are receiving this same recognition in their own way. Some are quiet, some are weeping, some are sitting in silence with a hand over their chest because they know exactly what has just been named. You are part of something that does not announce itself loudly, and that is exactly why it is real. It is sealed. You are not being asked to chase anything now. You are being asked to receive what has already begun to move toward you, and to stop measuring your life by the old panic that kept calling delay by other names. You have carried enough strain to confuse effort with devotion. You have carried enough silence to confuse restraint with wisdom. You have carried enough waiting to confuse waiting with absence. But none of that was the end of you. None of that was the definition of you. None of that was the final shape of your story. What was sealed in you was not a loss. What was sealed in you was a recognition that the courtyard cannot remain closed forever, because even stone remembers the day light touched it. And so you stand here now, not as someone trying to become real, but as someone remembering the weight of their own reality. That remembrance changes the way you breathe. It changes the way you enter a room. It changes the way you answer the pressure that once made you fold. You do not need to force your way into what is yours. You do not need to shout to prove your place. You do not need to abandon your tenderness in order to stand strong. You are learning the kind of strength that does not bruise the soul. You are learning the kind of peace that does not depend on perfect conditions. You are learning the kind of clarity that remains when the noise leaves. And because you are learning it, the old pattern cannot keep speaking as if it is the owner of your future. It is not the owner. It is not the author. It is not the verdict. It was only a season of training, and even that season did not have the power to erase what was planted deeper than fear. So now you walk differently, not because everything around you has already changed, but because the place inside you that once trembled before every unopened door is beginning to remember its own key. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not overlooked. You are in the exact hour where recognition becomes movement, where movement becomes trust, and where trust becomes a way of living that no longer needs to ask permission from old wounds. Let that be your grounding now. Let that be the rhythm under your thoughts. Let that be the quiet answer whenever the old voice returns and tries to tell you that you must earn every inch of light. You do not. You never did. You never will. You were always meant to be met, not manufactured. You were always meant to be known, not performed. You were always meant to be held by truth more deeply than by fear. And this is why the return feels so intimate. It does not arrive like a spectacle. It arrives like remembering the name you answered to before the world tried to rename you with limitation. You are called back to the center of yourself, not the center of pride, not the center of control, the center of truth. There the breath is cleaner. There the heart is less defended. There the courtyard no longer feels like a place where you must hide your light to survive the weather. There you understand that the weather was never the boss of the sky. There you understand that a season of cloud does not cancel the sun. There you understand that your quiet has never been emptiness when it has been full of listening. And that listening has brought you here, to this threshold, to this moment where the old weight starts loosening without your permission because something truer has already taken root. So stand gently in that truth. Stand gently in that remembering. Stand gently in the knowledge that the life you have been waiting for is not waiting to be invented by force. It is waiting to be welcomed by the part of you that is finally tired of shrinking. You are being restored. You are being gathered. You are being readied. And no matter how long the waiting looked, the waiting was never the whole story. It was the corridor. It was the narrowing. It was the place where your inner hearing became sharp enough to know the difference between empty noise and living call. Now you know. Now you know the signs were not there to frighten you. They were there to soften you. Now you know the pattern was not there to shame you. It was there to show you. Now you know the root was not there to trap you. It was there so you could finally see what needed to be released. And now you know why this feels like return. Because it is. Because what is returning is not only your confidence or your steadiness or your peace. What is returning is your consent to be fully present in your own life. And that consent matters more than any old fear that once tried to keep you small. So receive this now as the seal over all that has been spoken. You are confirmed in what is true. You are restored in what was strained. You are gathered into what was always yours. You are no longer negotiating with shadows. You are no longer bowing to delay. You are no longer asking fear to name you. You are chosen. You are held. You are ready. And the courtyard opens. And now that the courtyard opens, you do not rush across it. You do not need to prove that you are grateful by moving too fast. You do not need to make a performance out of peace. You simply remain present long enough to notice that the air is different where you once felt confined. That difference is not imagination. It is not a temporary mood. It is the quiet evidence of a life that has begun to re-enter its own center. You can feel it in the way your breath no longer has to fight as hard for space. You can feel it in the way your thoughts lose some of their force when they are no longer fed by fear. You can feel it in the way the old voice sounds thinner now, because the part of you that used to obey it without question has started to wake up. This is what returning looks like. It is not always loud. It is often humble. It often begins as a single honest moment where you stop pretending that what is shrinking you is somehow protecting you. You are allowed to tell the truth about that now. You are allowed to say that some of the things you called discipline were actually depletion. You are allowed to say that some of the things you called maturity were actually silence built out of hurt. You are allowed to say that some of the things you called patience were actually fear in a clean garment. And you are allowed to let those names fall away. There is no holiness in remaining trapped inside a misnamed burden. There is holiness in truth. There is holiness in clarity. There is holiness in the courage to stop defending what has already drained your spirit. So let the old burden be seen for what it was. Let the pressure be seen for what it was. Let the delay be seen for what it was. Not punishment, not abandonment, not proof that you were forgotten. Only the long corridor that carried you to this recognition. And now that recognition has arrived, there is no reason to turn back toward the place where you learned to make yourself smaller in order to feel safe. Safety is not found in disappearance. Safety is found in alignment. Safety is found when what you believe, what you feel, and what you do no longer have to betray one another just to keep the peace in the room. That is the peace you are stepping into. That is the peace that does not ask you to abandon your voice. That is the peace that does not demand you become less tender in order to become more strong. That is the peace that allows you to stand still without shame. And if standing still feels strange at first, that only means the body is learning a language it had to forget. Be patient with that learning. Be gentle with that recovery. Be faithful to what is opening. Because what is opening in you does not need to be rushed to become real. It is already real. It was real when you first felt the ache. It was real when the signs began. It was real when the pattern revealed itself. It was real when the courtyard began to brighten at the edge. And now it is real in the quiet way your spirit recognizes itself without needing applause. That quiet recognition is not small. It is one of the deepest forms of knowing. It is the knowing that says, I do not need to be convinced anymore. It is the knowing that says, I have seen enough to trust what is true. It is the knowing that says, I can stop circling the same wound and finally face the doorway. So face it now, not with fear, not with strain, not with the old urgency that used to make you forget yourself. Face it as one who has been gathered. Face it as one who has been remembered. Face it as one who no longer has to translate every sign into doubt. Because the signs were never your enemy. They were the language of mercy in a season when mercy had to be quiet in order to be heard. They came in fragments. They came in echoes. They came in the things you almost dismissed, and they kept coming because something in you was ready to understand them. Now understanding has become a door, and through that door, you are not meeting a stranger. You are meeting yourself without the distortion. You are meeting the part of you that's still. Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment.